recurrent depression. All recurrence is a characteristic of bipolarity. Are atypical depression, borderline personality, and bipolar II manifestations of overlapping common cyclopharmac diagnosis? This is with Giulio Peruggi, with whom I have had great pleasure to study in Italy, World Psychiatry. And this is Elie Karam's very important study that I'm proud to say was rejected by the regular psychiatric journals, American Journal, British Journal, Archives of General Psychiatry. I actually told him not to send to those places. Where is Elie? He agreed with me finally that it was an exercise in futility. You know, they are not there to accept new ideas. That there is such a thing as hyperthymic who's very anxious. You need to live in Lebanon to understand that. That very accomplished people who have energetic temperament, they have, you need to be in Italy to understand things like that. So I think that the West doesn't understand these things. The British in particular don't understand this. They're the melancholy nation, right? There's a book called that, with that title, Cheyenne. Okay, so this is an extremely important contribution to the literature that our friend Mario Mai accepted without any revision. Okay, agitated depression, stimulant use during depression, hostile depression, juvenile delinquency in depression, crimes of passion are almost the job of these mixed states. Severe premenstrual dysphoria. If it's severe, you have to think that there's a bipolar diathesis. Unrelenting anxiety during depression. And this is, the next one is very important. SSRIs induced sexual disinterest, if they do anything. If there is a paradoxical increase in sexual desire during SSRI, think bipolar. And extreme diurnality. Okay, there has been one Congress before this one devoted to bipolar spectrum, which was on a world level that took place in San Diego. This is the second one, and I'm proud to say that it's again the work of the Lebanese. That one was also, because we collaborated with Elie Hamtouch for this one and many of the French people. There is, for those of you who are in general practice, very major association with migraine and mood instability. Indeed, that's why people with migraine respond very well to mood stabilizers, particularly of anti-epileptic mood stabilizers. The genetics is very common between two of these diseases. It's unknown why. 65% of MDD are in the bipolar spectrum. This is an important paper with the late Dr. Benazzi. The problem with the SCID was that they ask you about your moods, and then if you say no, then they go to the dysthymia module, which means that they completely miss bipolarity. That's not the way you should ask. You should ask about the behavior. So it's important to ask about the behavior before you ask about the mood. That's what is introduced here. Because the behaviors are good things, you know. You like lots of women. If you're talking with a man, with women, you have to ask it more delicately. You give gifts to people. No, those kind of things should be asked first before you ask about the mood. They'll say yes, 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 and then you will say, when you're doing these things, are you in a great mood? Yes, doctor, I love doing these things. I'm in a great mood. That's the way to ask about it. It's very difficult to teach this because the instruments start with the mood. All the instruments. They underestimate it. Okay, this is a very important study for public health because showing that in children, if you follow up NOS, which is DSM language, is bipolar spectrum, they go into, progress into bipolar 2 and bipolar 1. And this is a study from adolescents and students, again showing the same thing. There's a progression from the low levels of the spectrum to higher levels over time. So it's of great public health significance. Because the advantages of bipolar are in the spectrum, not in the progression of the spectrum to bipolar 2 and bipolar 1. Zoltan Rimmer, who's here with us, has shown that cigarette smoking has a lot to do with suicide attempts, but Marimani has shown that actually it is in the bipolar spectrum. So Zoltan here, I don't know. Smoking has something bipolar with it. Dr. Yerevanyan actually in this study did something very important, which is to show that antidepressants can actually precipitate suicidality in bipolar patients. That's another major reason for not using it. This is not a controversy. They are great treatment for depressions in general medical practice, and to some extent in psychiatry in general practice, but in a specialized clinic, they induce that. Now, this is the first conference on bipolar disorder in children and adolescents that took place at the NIMH. I'm proud to say that I was the major instigator of this. But today it's considered controversial in the field, because there is a sense that if you diagnose bipolar spectrum, maybe you're tempted to give them medication, and then maybe a child is not ready to receive medication. But that's not the fault of the diagnosis. But the parents might be very insistent. They could be seeing things that are very disturbing. This is a frontier of research now. What to do with these children, often with bipolar parents. Sometimes the union of two bipolar parents. Often that's the case. So how should one treat these children before the age of puberty? Post-pubertal is not a problem, but often starts before then. And the mothers are able to see this. I was persuaded by mothers to see these kids, saying that I used to do those things, that they said, I'm just growing up. I'm just adjusting to a new teacher at school. And then she says, until at the age of 18 or 19, I had a postpartum psychosis. Even then they didn't recognize I was bipolar. They had to wait for an independent mania. So the mothers were very concerned that diagnosis be made early. So, okay, I come to the high point of this, and shows my collaboration with Karina Kiskal here, the one before last, on the pluses of bipolarity, especially the soft spectrum. Kay Jamieson is the only one that says they are manic depressive. Most manic depressives are not creative, because it's very difficult to be manic depressive and to really create. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's relatively rare if you take all manic depressives. It's mostly bipolar 2 or cyclothymic, basically the pink color there, or the mauve color. So the literature is consistent in this. So Kay Jamieson stands alone in it. She wants to destigmatize the illness by calling it creative genius or something like that. So on the normal curve, the temperament is between the first and second standard deviation. Indeed, it's very interesting that in Lebanon, Italy, and Buenos Aires, the hyperthymic is between these two in the normal range, 1 to 2 standard deviations. Very interesting. Anyway, I think that I just want to finish with this, which has to do with the genes. We have absolutely no idea. There are 2 genes for hyperthymic types, 1 for the cyclothymic, 2 for the irritable, that we have discovered in our program in San Diego. We have no idea what these genes do. Fibrillin 1, fibrillin 2. Well, fibrillin 2 has something to do with extracellular space. You might suggest something about mineral metabolism or something. That makes sense, but absolutely no idea. So that's the future, to find out what do they do. This is work of the next 15 years. This is the temperament volume that we have produced. Okay, actually, this is the last one I had. The Japanese like it. I think the race that Japanese bipolar spectrum is very low is nonsense. You have to go to Japan and see them. And this is endophenotype concept. And I'm very happy to see this from Montreal, from McGill actually, because the previous chairman attacked the bipolar spectrum concept. Now they are giving courses on pre-bipolar patients and all that. La dépression, okay, I'm done. What is this one? NIMH has a bipolar spectrum section. I wrote in the French National Academy the most important thing I've ever said about bipolarity. Depression is its predominant expression. Look for bipolarity behind every depression, especially when recurrent. And I think this is the last one. Some of the places I've been privileged to take the concept of bipolar spectrum, including this one. Thank you very much.
We will reserve the questions to the end. We're already more than half an hour late. We'll eat part of the lunch without having to change things.
You gave me so many.
You do. Just a reminder for the social program that the dinner tonight would be at Nahawand, not at